What's a story, amigos? This is Kino with some cool stories for today's story time.
First, meet a little green dragon who has no table manners.
And sprays the surprised Anna with a mouthful of cocoa.
Then John Goodman reads a book about the adventures of a lost polar bear.
A very big, tan animal sprung out of the water. Boo! It said.
And the story of a little girl and her strange and scary neighbor.
Go away!
Major funding for Storytime is made possible by a grant from Helen and Peter Bain, so that families everywhere can share the joy of reading with their children. Additional funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, by the annual financial support from viewers like you, and by the National Endowment for Children's Educational Television.
Hi, Lucy. Well, hi, Mara.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kino. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I was just hoping that we could read some stories and... Whoa! Hey! What are you doing, Lucy? Hey, Mara, look at this.
Coming.
Look at this beautiful painting that Lucy's doing. What is it?
I'm not sure. I'm just painting what I feel.
Gosh, is that how you feel, Lucy?
Well, that's a happy painting.
Well, yes, that's how I feel.
I feel like, could we read a story?
Sure. Hey, why don't we read this one?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Come on. Oh, Lucy, could you teach me how to paint?
Sure thing.
Great.
I'll teach you what I know. Maybe we can start a little later today.
Oh, I don't know, Lucy, because Uncle John said he would come over to read maybe a little later today.
Well, if he comes, we'll paint another day.
Okay.
Should we start the story now?
Oh, yep. Now's a good time.
All right, here we go. It's called Anna and the Little Green Dragon, and it was written and illustrated by Klaus Baumgart.
Oh, well, what happened to her face, Mara? Oh, was she playing with Lucy's paints?
Oh, I hope not.
No, I think that's Coco, Kino. Tell you what, let's read it and find out. Should I start?
Oh, yeah, now's a good time.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, wait a minute.
What now, Kino?
Well, I'm not settled. There.
Ready? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
This morning, like every other morning, Anna is sitting sleepily at the breakfast table. She is eating toast with a thick layer of marmalade on top. Suddenly, the box of cornflakes starts to shake until it tips over. Anna can't believe her eyes. A little green dragon jumps out of the cereal box. The dragon blinks, stretches a little, and then starts to explore the breakfast table. He jumps onto the butter and squishes it all through his dragon toes. Then, before Anna can stop him, he tries to balance an egg on his nose and juggle the cornflakes. Unfortunately, he hasn't practiced enough and makes a mess. Undaunted, he shows off another one of his tricks. Bravely, he climbs to the edge of Anna's cocoa cup and does a handstand. Once again, the little green dragon loses his balance and, with a big splash, he falls into the cocoa. When he doesn't surface, Anna wonders where he went. Up comes the little green dragon and sprays the surprised Anna with a mouthful of cocoa. Can you see him do that?
Yeah.
That's enough, scolds Anna. What's going on here? Who are you? There's no need to get upset. I'll let you do the same thing to me, replies the little dragon, jumping down from Anna's hand and hiding behind the cup. Okay, I can do that, thinks Anna, as she takes a big gulp of the cocoa to spray the little dragon. Just then, the door opens, and in comes Anna's mother. Shocked by the messy table, she takes a step back. Just look at this mess, she cries. Anna tries to explain that it's not her fault. The little green dragon did it. But now, Mother is really mad. Anna, I've told you 1,000 times that there is no such thing as a dragon. Before her mother has a chance to speak again, there's a knock at the door. When Anna's mother opens it, she grows very pale. There, right before her eyes, is a great big green dragon. Good morning, the dragon says very politely. Have you by any chance seen my son?
Have you by any chance seen my son? I get it. I get it. That mama dragon was looking for her little one.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps now Anna's mother is going to think twice about whether or not dragons are real.
Oh, I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
Did you notice any extra little characters in the story?
Oh, I didn't. I didn't.
No. Well, look right here, okay? Look, see the little fly? See, here, he's just sitting. And over here, the little fly is misbehaving.
Where? I don't see anything.
See?
Look. Can you see it?
Well, that's very interesting. I read the whole book and I didn't even notice that.
Kino, look right there. Do you see it?
Oh, sure, now I see it. Hey, I just thought of something. Since this is a dragon story, that fly must be a dragonfly. Wow!
Very funny.
I am so funny.
Yes, you are very funny, Kino. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I have to go. I'm putting together a whole bunch of books for a friend of mine. See you later.
Oh,
Bye, Mark.
First, we're going to read a story about a polar bear and a chameleon. That's an interesting combination, don't you think? And the second story is about a little girl who has a strange and scary neighbor.
whoa! Hey, that's Uncle John. He came. Will you read us some stories?
Hey, don't worry, I came prepared. I brought a book about a little polar bear and this other book about a girl named Rose who has a strange and scary neighbor.
Wow! Cool.
Are you really Kino's uncle?
No, not really.
We just call him Uncle John because he's good to us kids, and he reads us stories, and he's friendly, and he's funny, and he knows lots of stories that are good for kids.
Did you bring any of your good stories today, John?
I sure did.
Should I call you Uncle John?
John's fine. The little ones like to call me Uncle John. The story I brought today is called The Little Polar Bear, written and illustrated by Hans de Beer.
Rhymes with root beer.
Yeah, you know what? It sure does. It was a big day for Lars. He was going with his father on his first hunting trip. Lars was white all over, just like his father. In fact, at the North Pole where Lars lived, everything was white because it covered in ice and snow. Lars' father showed him how to do all kinds of things: follow tracks, swim, and dive. He talked and talked, and Lars listened silently, paying close attention. Once, his father disappeared underwater, and stayed so long that Lars began to worry. But when his father finally reappeared, he had a big fish for supper. When it was time to go to sleep, Lars's father said, "Make a big pile of snow to protect yourself from the wind like I do." Well, Lars was proud of his pile, but he was also very tired. He quickly fell asleep, just like his father. But during the night, the ice began to crack, and the piece where Lars was lying broke off. When Lars woke up, it was morning. He was all alone in the middle of the sea. It was getting warmer and warmer, and the piece of ice and Lars's pile of snow were getting smaller and smaller. When the ice was almost completely melted, Lars saw a big barrel drifting by. Luckily, Lars was able to reach the barrel and climb on top of it. Then, a storm began to rage. As Lars clung to his bobbing barrel, he missed his father and his pile of snow more and more. After the storm, Lars drifted on the sea for a long time. At last he saw land, but he couldn't see any snow or ice. Almost everything was green, and the sun was very warm. Lars carefully slid off the barrel and stepped onto the beach. The beach was hot and yellow. It burned Lars's paws. He ran to a river nearby, but just as he was about to plunge in, a very big, tan animal sprung out of the water. "Boo!" it said. Lars quickly ran to hide. "I was only joking," called the big tan animal. "I'm Henry the hippopotamus." "Who are you? Why are you so white?" Well, Lars didn't know the answer to the last question. Where I come from, everything is white," he said. He told Henry about his long journey and asked him how he could get back to his father. Henry listened sympathetically, but he seemed confused. He wiggled his ears, he squirmed, and finally said, "The only one who can help you is Marcus, the eagle. He has traveled all over the world. He will know where you come from and how you can get back there. But we'll have to cross the river, go through the jungle, and climb the mountains to reach him." Lars was happy to go, but when he looked at the river, he said, "The only problem is I can't swim very well." "No problem at all," said Henry. "Climb on my back. I won't sink." Lars was astonished by the things that he saw in the jungle. Henry patiently explained everything. Lars especially liked the tall brown stalks that Henry called trees. They were such fun to climb. In one brown stalk sat a funny green animal, which suddenly turned white, just like Lars. "It's a chameleon," said Henry. "It can change its color." Lars thought that was a handy thing to be able to do. At the edge of the jungle, the mountains began. It was a bit cooler, and Lars felt more comfortable. Henry found climbing difficult, but Lars helped by telling him where to step. After a while, Henry was exhausted. "That's enough for today," he said. "Tomorrow we will continue. Let's rest here and look out at the nice view." As Lars looked out over the land and sea, he began to feel homesick. "Cheer up," said Henry. "You'll be home again soon." The next day, they climbed higher. Henry often had to stop to catch his breath, but at last he calls, "Here comes Marcus," as a huge bird swooped down near Lars. Lars ducked. "Don't be afraid," said Henry. Marcus seems gruff, but he's really quite friendly. Henry said good morning to Marcus and politely explained why they had come. The eagle looked at Lars, and then he said,
Well, a polar bear in the tropics. You're a long way from home, aren't you, young man? Fortunately, I can arrange your passage back. Tomorrow morning, I will have Samson fetch you from the beach.
Thank you very much, sir, Lars said shyly. The next morning, Henry and Lars met Marcus on the beach. Right on time, said Marcus proudly as a huge gray whale arrived. Although Henry was happy for Lars, he was also sorry to see him go. Take care of yourself, he said sadly. Thanks for everything, Henry, Lars called as the whale swam away. Marcus flew along a bit to set them on the way. Henry stood alone on the beach, kept watching for a long time after Lars and the whale had disappeared. Samson swam a long way until they were surrounded by ice and snow. We must be near your home now, he said. At the same moment, Lars called, There he is! Father, Father, I'm back! Lars's father couldn't believe his eyes. There was Lars riding on top of a whale. Lars's father was very tired from looking for Lars, but he wasn't too tired to catch a big fish for Samson to thank him. Samson waved as he swam away. And now, said Lars's father, we must go straight home because your mother is worried. On the way home, Lars rode on his father's back. Everything was white, and he was surrounded by snow and ice. But this time, Lars talked and talked while his father was silent. He told his father about all the amazing things he had seen. Henry, the tall brown stalks, Marcus, and much more. You didn't meet anyone who was white? Asked his father in surprise. Nobody except a chameleon, said Lars, but that doesn't count. Lars had to laugh by himself because his father didn't understand his joke.
Oh, boy, that was a good story, Uncle John. Oh, will Lars ever go back to the jungle, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
No? Why not? Why do you think he'll go back?
Maybe that same thing will happen again.
Could be.
Yeah.
Lars made some good friends in the jungle. Maybe he'll want to visit them when he grows up.
Oh, he probably will. But the jungle's not a great place for polar bears.
Why not?
Well, they don't like places where it's real hot. They're cool weather bears.
Oh, Uncle John, you know what?
What?
You know how the father polar bear teaches Lars how to fish?
Yes.
Well, my grandpa taught me how to fish.
And in the story, Lars taught his father something, remember?
What?
Well, what did the little polar bear tell his father when he came back?
About the jungle.
That's right. What else? What about the jungle?
He met a lot of animals.
And he saw an eagle. He saw an eagle. He saw a whale.
He saw a lot of trees.
Trees?
Never seen trees
He
before.
saw a lot of mountains.
See? Lars taught his father something, too.
And Lars told his father that the chameleon didn't count.
Well, what's a chameleon?
A chameleon, Kino, is a lizard that can change the color of its skin for protection against predators.
Oh, what's a predator?
That's an animal who wants to have the chameleon for dinner.
Oh.
Mara, how's it going with your book work?
I'm almost finished. Hey, that was a nice story, John.
Why, thank you. Hey, let's go over to Mara to read this other book that I brought.
Oh, that's a great idea. I can work while you read. Perfect.
Yeah, come on, let's go, everybody.
Let's
Come
go.
on.
Now I know why they call you Uncle John.
Oh, why, Mara?
Oh, because John was nice enough to find out how I was doing working here and nice enough to come over and read. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's no big deal. And this other book that I have is called Rose Meets Mr. Wintergarten.
Oh, do they get together for dinner? Some pizza or for some taco salad, maybe?
No, for cookies. Well, you'll see. This story was written and illustrated by Bob Graham. The morning the Summers family moved into their new house, they felt at home. Faith and Rose put up their pictures. Baby Blossom watched. Mr. and Mrs. Summers planted pansies, petunias, daisies, and geraniums. Their garden was a carpet of flowers, and all before the sun went down. Every morning from the roof of their house, the Summerses watched the sun come up. The sun never touched the house next door. Next door, everything bristled. Next door lived Mr. Wintergarten. There were stories in the street about Mr. Wintergarten. He's mean, said Emily. And horrible, said Arthur. He's got a dog like a wolf, said Naomi. And a saltwater crocodile. They say he rides on his crocodile at night, said Emily. And gets you, Arthur shrieked. I don't believe you, said Rose. Anyway, don't frighten Blossom. My dad lost his football over there when he was a boy, said Emily. You can just see it through the prickles, old and flat as a pancake. No one ever goes in there, said Arthur, in case Mr. Wintergarten eats people. If your ball ever goes over, says Naomi, forget it. And just then, Rose's ball went straight over Mr. Wintergarten's fence. Rose went to tell her mom. Well, honey bunch, Mom said, you can get your ball back. Why don't you just go and ask him? Because he eats kids, said Rose. Well, we'll take him some cookies instead, said Mom. And maybe some flowers. Mr. Wintergarten's front gate had not been open for years. Rose heaved and pushed. The gate groaned and squeaked. Then slowly, it swung open. Rose could see that there was a dog, big as a wolf. I don't see any crocodiles, she said. I should hope not, replied Mom. She threw the dog a cookie. Rose knocked at Mr. Wintergarten's door.
Who the devil is that?
Shouted a voice from the inside. It's me, said Rose. She tiptoed in.
What do you want?
Said Mr. Wintergarten. I'm Rose Summers from next door. I've come to ask for my ball back. She twisted her fingers in her handkerchief, and I brought some flowers and cookies from my mom. Mr. Wintergarten glared at her. His dinner was cold, gray, and uninviting, with gristle floating in it, and mosquitoes breeding on top. But Rose could see that he wasn't eating children. Please, may I look for my ball, she asked.
No, said Mr. Wintergarten. Go away!
But when Rose had gone, Mr. Wintergarten slowly pushed back his chair and did something he hadn't done in years. Mr. Wintergarten opened his curtains. He sat on his front step in the sun.
No one has ever asked for their ball back, he said to himself, or brought cookies.
He saw Rose's ball, and he thoughtfully pushed it with his toe. Next, he made some darting movements that made his coattails fly in the sun, and then Mr. Wintergarten kicked the ball right back over the fence. Nice kick, said Rose.
Great catch, said Mr. Wintergarten. Or would you mind throwing me back my slipper?
Catch, Mr. Wintergarten, said Rose, throwing back the slipper. Good throw, Rose, said Mr. Wintergarten.
Let's play again tomorrow.
The end. Well, what do you think happened the next day, Ryan?
They played.
They played? They played again?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they played kick the ball over the fence?
Yeah. No.
Or do you think they maybe forgot about the fence and got together, played in somebody's yard?
Yeah.
Do you think they played together again?
And they...
Or do you think Mr. Wintergarten went back to his meat with mosquitoes on it and cold gray gristle?
He played.
He played? You think he played with Rose?
Well, maybe they got together to draw and paint in the garden.
Maybe they got together and they had cookies and read stories.
Maybe Mr. Winnie Warden kicked himself over the fence and Rose caught him.
Oh, I think I like the painting idea better.
Hey, Lucy, remember when you told me you'd teach me how to paint? Maybe today?
Yes, I do. But before we do, let's recommend some books for our friends at home to read on their own.
Oh, fantastico. Here's a favorite of mine. Yeah, there it is. It's also about a brave girl. It's called The Adventures of Isabel.
And I would like to recommend another Rose story. This is called Roses Sing on New Snow, and it's about a young Chinese woman who cooks a very special meal. Well, thank you very much, John, for coming to read to us. Please come back anytime, okay?
Yeah. And for all you out there at home,
Keep a story in your heart.
Hasta luego, my little tortellinis. Let's go paint, Lucy. Let's go paint. Come on.
Oh, okay. Come on, Kino. Today's Storytime books are Anna and the Little Green Dragon by Klaus Baumgart, Little Polar Bear, written and illustrated by Hans de Beer, Rose Meets Mr. Wintergarten by Bob Graham, The Adventures of Isabel by Ogden Nash, pictures by James Marshall, Roses Sing on New Snow by Paul Yee, illustrated by Harvey Chan. You can find these and other books at your local library.
Major funding for Storytime is made possible by a grant from Helen and Peter Bain, so that families everywhere can share the joy of reading with their children. Additional funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, by the annual financial support from viewers like you, and by the National Endowment for Children's Educational Television. Storytime is a production of KCET Los Angeles.